Welcome on Texas football. I'm Bobby Burton. It is time for lunch with the coaches. We're spicing it up a little this year. Bryan Erwin has been with us for the last couple of years, head football coach, former state championship head football coach of Lamar Cougars. Also been at a number of different places. He's going to be joined every week by Bob Shipley, also a state championship head coach. We've got two of you guys on here nowadays. I don't know what to say about this. But appreciate you guys both coming in and joining us. This segment each and every week will be brought to you by our friend Laura Baker at Keller Williams Realty there in Austin. All right, guys, keys to the season. We talked we pre-gamed this a little bit and talked about what we were going to talk about. One of the things that I mentioned to you guys, and I felt it was what y'all were talking about behind the scenes, was a little different than maybe what most people would think. I asked y'all, is Quinn Ewers a key to the season? Bryan, I'll start with you and let you get going on what you think about Quinn heading into his third year.
I think he's ready and poised to have a breakout year. I mean, he's third year. He knows the offense like the back of his hand. Probably knows it as well as Sark does now. And I don't think there's any concerns. I don't think there's a concern at all. He's just got to stay healthy. I mean, he's got banged up the last couple of years, so he's got to prove that he can stay healthy. He showed some wheels last year and showed the ability to run. So he's got to run intelligently, know when to get down, know when to get out of bounds. But as far as running the offense, executing the offense, knowing what the defense is doing to him, executing the RPO game, all that good stuff, stepping up in the pocket, he's ready for a breakout year. There's no concerns.
So you guys are basically, and Bob, you were the same way when I talked to you about this. You kind of think it's a given that he's going to keep moving in the right direction when you talk about Quinn Ewers.
Yeah, he took a big jump last year, obviously from his first year. The one concern that I have from him that I would like to see him work on a little better is his pocket presence. He seems to when he's feeling a little bit of pressure, he seems to take his focus away from downfield, and it just totally disrupts his timing. He's got the way I describe it is always, having high beams and low beams. You're aware of what's going on. It's kind of like when you're a kid, you're running and there's a hole or there's a rock or, you're running, but you don't have to look at it. You know where it is and your body knows. The same thing with the quarterback. You feel it. But you have to have a little bit of trust, step up in the pocket, as Coach said earlier, and not lose his focus downfield because he seems to get distracted by the rush, and then it's usually not good things after that. But other than that, I think he's poised to continue his upward trending.
I tell you what, that's interesting because that's something eerily similar to what Bryan said a couple months back when he was talking about Quinn's escapability. He has to learn where the escape routes are in the pocket. You guys are that's a good sign to me as the host of this show that you guys kind of see things similarly, which is great. All right, what are some of the keys to the season? Then Bob, I'll start with you. What's one of your big keys to this season?
Well, it's most of us are probably more settled with offense than we are with defense, although, the running back, situation is a little bit thinner than it was. But, really the last two times, maybe even the last three times we've seen our secondary, there was a big concern there. I mean, especially going back to the bowl game and, Oklahoma State, it is what it is. But, and then we think, okay, well, they're going to get it figured out over the spring. And so we watch a spring game and what do we see? More of the same. And so Coach knows this sometimes, especially, I've never coached in a stadium like DKR as a head coach of a college team, but even if it's a scrimmage, a spring game, you want everybody's there to see some fireworks. Nobody's coming to the spring game, Coach, as much as you and I hate it, to see the defense dominate. Exactly. They want to see all the bells and whistles and all the new toys we have and all that stuff, with this offense. And so I wouldn't be a bit surprised if the offense didn't throw a few things at the defense they hadn't seen up to that point, just so they would have some fireworks and something to talk about. But the thing that kind of leaves me scratching my head a little bit is after the spring game, Sark defended him as, oh no, we're going to be fine, and I don't know if he's trying not to speak it into existence or whatever, but the secondary is, I feel good with Manny Muhammad on one side. I'm not sure what the other corner spot's going to look like. And so, anyway, how well they play the inside quick slants, how well they play the deep ball this year early is the biggest concern for me that I see overall for this football team.
Bryan, what do you think about the secondary and your concerns and or why they're a key to the season in that regard?
Definitely concerned because, like Coach Shipley said, that was the weak link last year. We could not cover the deep ball, and whether it was outside or down the seams. But Coach knows too that all that's tied together as well with the front. If our front can speed things up by 1/10 of a second, I'm talking about 1/10 of a second, then that helps the secondary immensely. So I think with us being improved in the secondary physically and speed and the traits that we have back there now, along with the edge play that we should have, we know what it looks like on paper. We've seen them in practice and things like that. I think the pass rush is going to get there. It's going to speed the thing up for the quarterback, and I think that's going to help the secondary tremendously. So it ties in together. Linebacker drops, linebacker play. It's all tied in. You got to marry the front with the back, and you can't cover those guys forever. Not in this game. Not at that level. So we've got to get pressure on them, and we got to mix in coverages between zone and man. And but if we do that and we get the rush, we think we're going to be able to put the pressure on the quarterback. I'm concerned, but I'm not tremendously concerned. I think we've improved in the offseason.
I asked you guys both prior to this, taping this and recording it, what y'all's biggest concerns were. And both y'all, the first thing was stay healthy. Mm-hmm. That's such a coach's cliche. I mean, I got to be honest, that's not what I'm thinking of, right? I'm thinking of, Quinn's got to do this, and the defense has to step up and get more sacks, et cetera. But staying healthy is something that Texas has done fairly well under Steve Sarkisian. Yes, Quinn got hurt last year. Jonathan Brooks went down with a torn ACL. But overall, Texas has been a generally healthy team under Sark. Bob, why are you guys so concerned about health beyond just what we would naturally think of it and not wanting to lose top-tier players?
Well, I think, losing Baxter was a great example of how sideways your season can go in a hurry, and so that's just a reminder, and then we lost the freshman. And so now you're thinking, okay, are we snake bit, and it's a trickle down thing, it affects the whole team. It affects now the defense can't tackle live because you can't tackle a running back. You can't, take him to the ground, and so it affects a lot of things. And coach will tell you, when he won a state championship, he stayed pretty healthy. That's about the only way you can do it is to, have your stars there for the big games when they count. And so I talked to a guy close to the situation there and said, really, other than the running back room, the list is not bad. Felt pretty good about where they were coming out of training camp. So that's a good thing. We can just knock on wood and not be dumb and get guys hurt in games and situations that don't matter.
Yeah. Bryan, one of the things you mentioned that I thought was something that was telltale from a year ago, you talked about red zone efficiency when we were talking earlier. What is it that you're looking for there to change? Because Rod has a great stat. I mean, Texas was 100+ ranked nationally a year ago. Bert Auburn attempted 35 field goals. Mm-hmm. That's a career for some people, right?
Yeah.
What are you looking for, and what are you seeing as the key, other than just, hey, they need to get better at red zone?
Yeah. Before I answer that, the other one regarding health, the first thing that comes to mind, Coach Shipley would probably agree with this, is the reason coaches are concerned about health. We are the most paranoid people on the planet. The paranoia sets in, and you start worrying about, oh my gosh, we got 2 running backs hurt. What if the whole room goes down? What if the whole room goes down? What are we going to do? We're going to play empty all year? You start working on your empty package right now because, hey, we're going to be an empty the rest of the year, So you start playing those stupid mind games and start chasing rabbits and all that good stuff. But regarding the red zone, one other thought, just like we said last year, Bobby, it seemed like the player of the game for me every single week was Burton. Bert, he just did a fantastic job kicking the football and scoring points when we got the opportunity to score points. And that's important. You got to score. You got to score points. If it's a field goal, it's a field goal. But to be a championship team, you got to score touchdowns. And so the answer to your question is we got to score touchdowns. That efficiency, whatever that ratio is now in college football, what it needs to be a championship team. I don't know what that ratio, that percentage is that Michigan's was at last year, and Alabama and Georgia were at. But whatever that number is, Sark and them know what that number is. And we've got to score touchdowns, not kick field goals to the same ratio that we did last year. So, getting the ball in the end zone, being efficient down there is the name of the game. So score touchdowns.
Bob, what do you think?
Well, it's certainly the biggest thing that stands out offensively is red zone ineffectiveness, I guess you would say. Sometimes it gets to the point that you're pressing so hard that you overthink things, and I like having a list to go off of, maybe first 5 plays, first whatever, but sometimes I wonder if we get so tied into that, that we're going to go down. Okay, here's my red list. Here's my red zone playlist, script. And instead of going sometimes with your gut, now people need to understand one of the big reasons you script plays is you want to see how the defense is going to be adjusting to what you're throwing at them. And there's people at the press box, they're writing down everything like crazy, but sometimes you just have to go with your gut and don't make it bigger than it is. I'm sure just like Sark at the end of the spring game blew off the DBs being an issue. He doesn't want to speak that into existence. He doesn't want that to become an albatross around the neck, and so you just kind of blow it off. But I promise you, they've worked long and hard hours since that last bowl game before training camp to come up with some ideas or some way of thinking. Of course, one of the things he said in the press conference was, we've got to be mentally tougher in the red zone. Well, yeah, you do. And he's not going to tell you what he's thinking. But I think certainly if we're going to be contending for the playoff again, we've got to be way more efficient in the red zone, because we may not have the luxury that we've had in the past with our running backs if anybody else gets hurt.
All right, I want to talk to you guys about the punting game coming up. Also, those edge rushers that Bryan and Coach mentioned, as well as stopping the run, given the loss of Tavondre Sweat and Byron Murphy from a year ago. But before we do that, I want to say thank you to our sponsor. That is Laura Baker of Keller Williams Realty. If you've been or thinking about moving to, from, or within the Austin area, we would love for you to reach out to Laura Baker at Keller Williams, 512-784-0505. Laura, or reach out to her at laura@andyallenteam.com. Laura is a real estate expert, lifelong Austinite, been doing it for a long, long time, and appreciate her and her sponsorship of Lunch with the Coaches. All right, let's get back to it.
She was the OG, right, Bobby?
She's been with us from the very outset, and she's also going to be, I think, pretty sure she's going to be up in Michigan for the Michigan game this year. She travels, coaches. She's one of those that travels. Hey, Bryan, I'll go back to you. Punter was one that you wanted to talk about, if you would, and say that is one of the keys to the season for you, good or bad, essentially.
Yeah, last year, I kind of got beat up by a few of my friends on this show for talking about the kicker and kickoffs and the quality of kickoffs that we had the year before, and that being a concern. And so I'm kind of boring like that when it comes to football. It's, special teams, defense, offense, kind of in that order. And so, the punt situation I've heard is not been truly established yet. I don't know. I haven't seen it, but if that's a concern, if we're an average punting team, that's a concern because we ought to be able to flip the field. The Michael Dixon type guy that could completely flip a field. We don't have to be that good. But when your offense can go out and, like I always say, the only guaranteed 40-yard play you have in your package is a punt, or a 45-yard play is a punt. That's the only time you can truly guarantee yourself to advance the ball 40, 55 yards down the field. And punt is not a bad play. We always sold our team on the fact that punt is not a bad play, and we got to be willing to punt sometimes. You're talking about Quinn Ewers a while ago. He's got to be convinced a punt is not a bad play. It's a heck of a lot better than an interception on 3rd and 5. Let's if it's not there, it's not there. Throw it away. Let's punt the ball. Let's play championship defense. We'll get it back in a minute. So just having a good punter that can flip the field, advance the ball down the field, and then put your defense in a better situation. We've got the offense backed up inside their own 20. The odds against the offense are tremendous.
Coach Shipley, you have anything to add on the punter part?
Not much. It's the one position I think that nobody knows. I mean, who is the punter going to be?
Mm-hmm.
We may not get a depth chart until this weekend. I mean, I don't know when that's even going to come out, but we have one of the best special teams in the country. I think consistently, we may have the best special teams coach in the country. And I am hoping and praying that they've got somebody in their hip pocket that we, may not know about. Because I'm telling you, I sat in a bowl game on the sidelines in a bowl game where if I'm not mistaken, the punter was the most valuable player.
He was.
Yeah,
Michael Dixon.
And so that's pretty important. I mean that, when you're talking about sometimes 10, 15, maybe even 20 yards, sometimes that's unbelievable advantage. And it's an unbelievable gut punch when you see one that, shimmies about 30 yards and, you just like, it can really take the wind out of your sails, shanking a punt or having poor punting performances.
That's so true because I've seen. I mean, you talk about having the ball on your own 20 and it's 3rd and 5, you don't make it, and then you punt it, but somehow you shank it to your own 45 or the 50-yard line instead of having the other team start in their own territory. Mm-hmm. It's just it takes the wind. We're giving them something here when in a game where we can't give them much.
One of the questions that I wish CJ or somebody would ask at a press conference at some point, and maybe they've asked. But, if the scholarship numbers go up, are we going to start investing more scholarships in punters and kickers? Because, Bert Auburn was winning games for us and wasn't on scholarship yet, So with the new numbers proposal, do you see that, Bobby, as something that –
Oh, yeah, they'll do that. They're going to have to. I think just about everybody's going to be on scholarship, including what used to be walk-ons, essentially. I think that's the route. And the great thing about it is the state of Texas is not lack for good kickers and punters, actually. Punters are actually more rare, I think, in the state of Texas than kickers. But I think they'll do that. I would ask y'all, as it relates to that, in talking about that kind of idea that you got to have championship defense and punt the ball well, et cetera. One of the things, Coach Shipley, you talked about was some way to slow down people running the ball a little bit. And you said some combination of people. This was prior to our recording this. What did you mean by some combination of people to stop the run?
Well, what I was talking about is replacing the two guys we have in the NFL, finding out what combination is going to work and who is truly going to be, of course, well, this first game especially, they're going to be rolling in and out, and that's obviously a huge advantage that we have is we've got a lot of depth, and we can roll guys in and out. But I'm not sure who those front guys are going to be yet. I mean, and I don't know if it even matters who's named the starter, because I think they're going to be rolling in. But figuring out that right combination is going to be important, because you start taking for granted, the guys we had playing up front last year, and now you all of a sudden, just like Coach talking about, we can't cover those guys forever back there. We got, and I know we're really high on our edge guys, but you've got to have some push in the middle too, or they'll just sit up in the pocket. They'll just take a couple steps up in the pocket and pick you apart.
Yeah, and as far as stopping the run too, your edge guys can't just they're not in jet mode. You on third down, medium, third down, long. Us coaches, you give those defensive linemen a jet call or something where they can really elongate their stance and get up the field. But when it's first down, second down, they've got to play technique football, and they're not able to pin their ears back and go rush the quarterback on a first down call. So they've got to be able to play run technique as well and compress, that space, squeeze those gaps, play perfect technique, versus the down, the base, the reach blocks, things like that. And so you're not only your defensive tackles, but your defensive ends. If they're flying up the field trying to rush the passer every time, like some of these NFL guys do, then all of a sudden that B gap, that C gap gets really wide, and that's a bad thing. Everybody's gonna start pointing the fingers at the defensive tackles, but it's not. It's the defensive ends widening that space instead of compressing that space. I think Jalen Ford's another one, that we got to replace. I mean, he's besides those two guys in the middle, what a stud he's been for us the last 2 years. And remember that, Bobby, 2 years ago when he went tackle-less that first game, and me and you kind of torched him that first show, and he didn't have one tackle. I'm like, how in the heck does a middle linebacker not have one tackle? And I'm like, this guy's terrible. He's horrible, and all of a sudden he just skyrockets and has a great year. So like Coach Shipley said, we're going to be able to play so many people, and the depth is tremendous. We're going to be able to rotate, probably I'd say 10 to 12 players, between interior guys and edge guys, I would think 10 to 12 players would play. And I saw the quote today where Sark said, if you're in the two deep lineup, you're playing. And so that's exciting to see as well.
A year ago, Sark against Rice said he played 32 defensive players in the first half.
Yeah.
In the first half.
That's about right.
Yeah, that's crazy. Also, it sounds like, coaches, that Michael Kern, the freshman out of St. Thomas Aquinas, is going to get the punting job based on Sark's response in Monday's press conference. And I will tell you guys, that in and of itself is kind of crazy, because I remember there's a guy named Isaac Pearson that started off as Texas's punter 2 years ago, and he bobbled the first snap, then tried to go for it on another time, and he never saw the field again and ended up transferring.
Mm-hmm.
That was his first time in a major college stadium to do anything.
Yeah.
Texas is going to have the same kind of punter this year, where he's done it at St. Thomas Aquinas, but that ain't quite DKR with 100,000 people and craziness going all around you. So there's a lot of pieces. All right. Thank y'all for doing this today. I have one last thing I want to ask you guys both. And that's we went through kind of the keys and what y'all think of the season. Thought the Quinn Ewers comment from you guys and the expectations there are so strong. I was really intrigued by that. But what do y'all think of this season for Texas? Like, what is y'all's predicted record or predicted season finish for this Texas team? And taking everything you've said into account and think and what you've seen over the past couple of years of Steve Sarkisian.
I'll let Coach Shipley go first.
Okay. Well, I think spoken like a guy that wants to defer.
I defer to the second half.
Yeah. By the way, that's one thing I never did. I wanted the ball every time. I wanted the ball every single time. I wanted to try to get up on them. That's another show.
That's because you had a couple boys named Shipley playing for you,
well,
and McDaniel.
We were able to do a little more of that with those guys. But I think all of us would love, to see a way we could come through and have a 0 at that second number, and make it in the playoffs undefeated. But there's just, we're playing one of the 4 biggest games of the year at home. The other 3 are on the road. Now, the one in Dallas is a neutral site, but I just think logically trying to think through this, injuries, the big games, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to say 10-2. But see, that 10-2 can be a whole lot different if those 2 you lost to is OU and A&M, as opposed to losing Georgia and Michigan. You can be 10-2 with only losses to Georgia and Michigan, and you beat your 2 rivals, and you're going to be in the playoffs, and you're going to be playing the SEC championship game, probably, So that's a lot different than 10-2, losing to your 2 big rivals first year in the SEC. But that's how I see it.
Bryan?
Yeah, I think a great season is 11-1. Obviously, Georgia's the one on the schedule that we probably would go into expecting, or being the underdogs. 10-2, I think, is a really, really good season, and probably more realistic, like Coach said. We're in the SEC now. We're not in the Big 12 any longer. It's going to be, guys, Kentucky will get after your butt. Arkansas will get after our butt. We know what A&M and Oklahoma are going to look like. We know what Georgia's going to look like. We know Florida's coming to town. We know how they play football. 10-2 would be really, really, really good. And I think Coach had a great point. If it's Georgia and Michigan, if it's Georgia and a slip up to Kentucky, we can live with that. And we're still we got a chance to be in the SEC championship game with even those 2 losses, and a chance to be in the top 12. So I totally agree. We don't want to lose to OU, don't lose to A&M, and we can give up a couple, but week in and week out, it's just brutal. And so we know the Georgia's there, and that's going to be a huge task. And then just trying to get through the season unblemished against some other really, really, really good football teams is going to be tough. I expect us to win at Michigan. I do. I think we're going to win that football game. We're the more veteran team, and we got more coming back. We've got higher expectations, and we've got a coaching staff that's been in place for 4 years, and they're going through a lot of transition. I would be surprised if we don't win that game by 10+.
Woo! Oh man, you're talking a week ahead of time already. You got me wanting to go to Ann Arbor this week. Hey guys, I got to be honest. We're out of time for today, but I want to say it's been a treat listening to both of you guys. I think it's going to be great hearing you guys go back and forth, because one of the things I wanted on Texas football always to be is like a resource to Texas fans, and you two are both just tremendous resources to Texas fans. I really mean that. So, all right. Thank you to Coach Bryan Erwin, as well as Coach Bob Shipley. This has been On Texas Football, brought to you by our friend Laura Baker over at Keller Williams Realty. Again, reach out to her at 512-784-0505 if you're moving to, from, or within the Austin area. All right. Until next week, guys, Texas will be either 1-0, or I don't even want to think about what y'all are going to say if they lose next week. Or this weekend. Y'all be good, Coach. We'll see you next week.
All right.
Bryan. Welcome, guys.